Thank you, Amadou. Next, I'm going to invite all the Coders4Africa presenters to come up here, and we're going to have a short Q&A, maybe 15 to 20 minutes. After that, we'll have a short presentation by one of the speakers before we break for lunch. Lunch will be at noon, and it'll be provided right here, so you can't leave. It'll be delicious, don't worry. As they set up, I'm just going to point out that they're all male, and I'm not saying I'm looking for a job, but I'm like, if you guys need any additions to your team, I'm going. Any Q&As? We have about 15 minutes, 15 to 20. Yeah, so you can just line up somewhere. I'll bring the mic to you. I saw someone. Okay, I'll go first.
Hi. I have two, hopefully, quick questions. The first is around UX. And I was just wondering, is there, or should there be an element of anthropology when it comes to dealing with UX? It would seem that Steve Jobs took that approach. The second question is around testing. Just wondering, are there like a best practices when it comes to the timeline for testing? A good example would be the Affordable Care Act. They did do a lot of testing for the website, but we all know what happened.
Well, the jobs thing, that really boils down to the values that your company sets. So when they're saying the anthropology, could you explain that a little bit?
Pretty much study of human behavior, if you will, so behavioral study.
Yeah, and that's, you really just have to understand your users. I mean, Apple, they have a very broad, all their computer systems are very broad, so they're trying to think of the most human ways that people are going to use their products and what they need. If you have a very refined product, or you have clear value proposition, then you just have to think about those users, what you're trying to do. So, I mean, of course you want to think about what your users need. Sorry, I wish I could do better on that. But as far as when you start testing, really we use an agile method. We start testing right away. We try and get our MVP out in 30 days, 60 days quickly. And we're testing from the get-go. What you want to test, though, is really up to you. You got to make up your mind about what's important, because you can't test everything.
And just to piggyback on the testing piece, I think the problem with the healthcare.gov site was that it was just not one company working on it, it was several. So the failure there was integration testing. It was test to see how all the systems were going to play together until they went live. And of course, we know what happened. So it's about the project manager being able to identify, well, that should have been identified as a high risk for the project. But that's something that should have been addressed very early in the process. But in general, as far as testing, we want to make sure that all your eyes are dotted, which is, of course, as far as it starts at the most basic level of testing, which is really testing at the developer level. And then, depending on the resources that you have, then you will have some acceptance testing, and hopefully that's all related to. But integration testing, whenever you're dealing with large systems that have to work together, that's something that is to be addressed very early in the project.
I think also one of the things in regards to testing is like if they had done some type of like page load test, like using the analytics to measure like how long the page is taking, or is it being slow after a certain amount of time, like that would have been something that would have helped them. I don't know if they actually did that, but like that's definitely actually a good test for that type of scenario too.
Hello. So in terms of testing, if we look at the Affordable Care Act, I don't think they follow some sort of methodology that, for example, we are very keen on the agile approach. The agile approach says, okay, you have this big system, but you deliver it in chunks. Okay? So I deliver this piece, and so on and so forth. As you deliver the piece, the client actually can validate, right? Validate and say, okay, acceptance criteria, that's what you say. I accept, you can move on to the next one. And until you're done with the first one, you should be moving, unless you have a large team that you can navigate to. But that system was huge. You can't do, that type of testing right off the bat. It's what they call the waterfall model, which is, right? but you have to do everything first, and if it fails, you go back and re-engineer or do some things.
Yeah, right.
In terms of the anthropology thing, I'm a big fan of anthropology, and because it's just Africa is so rich with it and stuff like that. One of the things that's interesting to me is what they call the Internet of Things, with the wearables, right? That's gonna, just like we leapfrog a lot of the wired technology in Africa, we're on smartphones. I think with the Internet of Things, we're gonna also leapfrog a lot of, for example, on the medical field, right? If you have these little, Ali showed some watches. If you have this watch that has sensors to keep track of your blood flow or something like that, and that can loop it back to a central place where people look at different things and can get an alarm and say, oh, this guy's about to die of a heart attack or something like that. I think that piece of Internet of Things, I think we're going to get closer in Africa to at least to fight that.
Yes. Could you, just based on my experience, piggybacking off of testing, one of the things that, as a nucleus is coding, one of the, I think two of the most overlooked things are QA, quality assurance, and security. Especially when you're dealing with a lot of mobile apps and things like that. How have you guys approached those two areas?
Yeah. So basically, we work within the process. We actually have, a list of best practices and templates, that we use and checklists that we follow before even starting a project. So, starting from the user design, from there you actually define what your user acceptance criteria are, and we coding against that, and we forces our developer to actually follow, TDD, which is design. So from there, we have that already set up, and as we move along, throughout the life cycle of the project, we have some focus testing. You deliver a part, but make sure you go into settings where you show what is this. You don't even explain everything. Don't tell him what do you think it is. Make sure that it is approachable and workable. So that's what we use processes.
Thanks for having this. It's kind of beneficial for me. I'm Quentin Barnes from Accelerated Destiny. Our goal is to expose students from hostile environments to technology at an early age. I got a few questions. If you don't want to answer all of them, I'm not sensitive, so it's okay. So first question is, I'm just going to give them all to you. For user experience, right? So what would you say would be the top two most efficient ways to maximize or develop your app to give the best user experience? The next question was about cloud. I'm skeptical about doing things in the cloud, but I interact with a team that's all over the nation because, I don't know if you're familiar with the law, whoever owns the server owns the work, right? So that's kind of another concern for me for the cloud. And the third is really simple. Does Coders4Africa have a central location where you can kind of scroll through all the apps that you've built?
I can speak to user experience. If you're asking for, one or two products that are going to guide you through that, there's hundreds. We have select tools that we use, and honestly, we probably only use 5 or 6 software programs. Any shop is going to look at their tools.
It doesn't have to be software. Anything that you found to be just really efficient. In my experience, there's a lot of ways to do stuff, but it's just a few things that's really efficient.
Sketches, we do low fidelity mock-ups. We're very open with communication with the client. Me as a designer, I speak with the client directly, which is nice. We get them on board, and we're able to push out to their devices quickly, kind of a polished UI.
With respect to the cloud, we have a few solutions. So there's some people, they have critical data they don't want to share. So in that case, the only choice they have is private cloud, host it yourself. Because, even if it was on the cloud, you'll have to do the same thing anyway because you don't want to share. But note that certain of the vendors have special programs. Amazon, for example, has cloud for the government because they have tight restrictions. And also, even though there's some law, you can sign agreements in that. If you're dealing with healthcare, and you know dealing with patient data, there's some laws you have to follow, and you can sign an agreement. You have to make sure you have an understanding that you follow that. So, and this is binding contract. So,
Yeah, I'll add on the client. Actually, he mentioned healthcare because we have a client who we're building a product for, which want us to sign what they call a BAA. I told him, what is it? So basically, it's an agreement between the cloud, where you have in the thing, the client, and then the client and us in the cloud. So it's a loop that anything will mess up, everybody's responsible. But in terms of cloud, I don't think we can avoid it anymore. I mean, you're using the cloud, whether you know it or not. I mean, if you have a Gmail account, you're using Facebook, all of those is hosted by somebody. Either, like Facebook has their own data centers, like they do whatever they want to do with the data, or you can, like Ali mentioned, we're really big fan of Amazon because it's very simple and very easy to basic. The area to entry is very, very small, so it's going to go there. Regardless of what we do, it's going to go there, whether you do private cloud or public cloud. There's no way of turning back.
To answer your question as well about
We're currently working on a marketing initiative, so we don't have a specific site where all the apps are listed, but it's in the works, and it should be probably the next couple of weeks or so.
Hey, thank you guys. My name is Matthew McAllister. I work at Peace Corps here in DC, and I was talking with you guys this morning. We did a hackathon with you guys in Ghana a couple weeks ago, which was awesome, and I was able to Skype in and see the awesome work that folks were doing there. So wanted to see if those types of like hackathons was an approach you guys took to do rapid development and get to that MVP product really fast. And then the main question that I had is Peace Corps is kind of heading towards this direction of doing everything open source, using GitHub to manage code and let other people see what we're working on. And wanted to just get your thoughts on whether or not all the apps you're working on going forward are going to be open source and how you're going to contribute to that larger community. Thanks.
Okay, I can answer the last part, but with respect to going open source, well, we love open source, we work on it, but open source is not really like, depending on really what the product is, some of the closed, commercial application makes sense, and we will choose that if it works, but we always have alternative, using open source, and even our development tools, is based even on the cloud now, like we're moving toward that. So you mentioned GitHub, but there's technology where even our development environment is hosted on cloud, and our developers don't have to worry about installing these different things. They just need a laptop and a connection, and they can access the work right away without worrying about the IT security, all the different things. That's where we're.
And in terms of open source, we actually have an internal project, and it's an application. It's called Nushi. And Nushi is a language in Ivory Coast, it's like a street colloquial language that people use to communicate. And a couple of years ago, it was written using PHP, and we wrote it using the Mean Stack. And we're planning to open source it pretty soon to kind of like display, okay, this is how we use the Mean Stack at Coders4Africa, and make it so that it's not just for Nushi, but it's more like a open source translation, like take online dictionary for any type of language. So that's going to work.
Also, so about Ghana, so we did do a couple of events with Mobile Web Ghana and Peace Corps, and I think Joshua Kim was the guy who reached out to us. That was basic. The precept of that was an event called Coders4Africa in Action that we have. It was a bi-monthly event, and the aim of it was really to get all the techies together, right? Because everyone was like operating on different silos. Let's get together. Let's talk about the issues that we're experiencing. Let's talk about how we can learn from each other. So it's really a subset of this whole Pan-African mindset, right? How can we get together and share knowledge and help each other learn more. And I think it was very, very successful because another thing that we did was the practical-based project training, where we would pair individuals with businesses, right? So it's not just like, okay, here, code this thing for us. You have a client, you have to meet this client. Some of them are very difficult. You have to learn negotiation skills, business skills. So it's not just about coding, right? So that was one of the main things that we're trying to relate to people is like, okay, yes, you learn a language, but you're a person. Like it comes down to the people, relationships, and we also try to, instill that knowledge in them through this whole process.
I'll add quickly on the hackathon thing. So we have the capacity. right? We have the developers. And where coding really means solving problems. And Peace Corps have problems. If you guys, and I've told Joshua before, if you guys want to create an agreement where we can go at it, even Ebola, we're talking about it, some of the presentation we wanted to do was use Ebola as a theme. Because all the stuff we're talking about, if you want to see, for example, well, how did Ebola progress in the past 10 years? You're going to be using all the stuff we talked about, the UI side, you're going to talk about the front end with the mean stack, because it's, JavaScript may be a map with JavaScript clickable stuff, where when you click on Sierra Leone, it tell you how many people conducted it. You can have it be in real time, like you're adding these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You see what I'm saying? We're thinking about that. So if you have, let's do it.
Thank you.
All right, so the question I had was probably more on the business side of what you guys are doing. I think that you guys stated that you started as a kind of a nonprofit, and now we kind of shift towards business model. So in the outsourcing model that you guys have, is the idea to hold the Indian kind of model where you're actually supporting companies here, because that's where the opportunities are in terms of high margin and things like that? Or is the idea still focusing on trying to solve problems that are in Africa, where some of the margins from a business perspective may be a little bit low? So I wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the strategy 2 to 3 years in terms of how you guys are going to execute from a business perspective.
Okay, that's a very good question, because we get this all the time. So the nonprofit was necessary because we needed to find people. We needed to find the developers, right? But we always had in mind that we wanted to do outsourcing, mostly from the US. But as we discovered, we're like, wait a minute, Africans do have serious problems too. But the problem, for example, if you have a group of developers in an African country, it's very rare that a government or a business will trust them to build some of these things. We rather deal with Western Europe, Eastern Europe sometimes, even hire some Indian to come to the country and do the work. The reason because, 1, exposure, 2, skills. All right? So we said, okay, there's multiple ways of approaching the African's problem, but let's start crawl before you walk. If we get our developers to learn how to build cutting-edge technology, the mean stack, not everybody knows it. You can go to your senior developer tell mean stack, they probably look at you like, why you want to do that, right? Teach them that you are at the same level. Those developers you saw in the video earlier can be hired right now at Google or Microsoft because they're young, they're actually more creative than we are because we just show them the technology. If we get these clients, right, that we manage in the US, by the way, every client is managed in the US, and the project is developed in Africa. These guys started developing habits, discipline. Right now, they're all over the web, man. These guys never sleep. It creates a sort of an ecosystem that will allow us now, in 1 year, by the way, to go to the Senegalese government, because the Senegalese government adopted the Dara project you saw with the lifestyle. We can go to the Ethiopian government. We can go to these guys, hey, we have a company registered in your country. We can do this. You don't need to hire the Indians. You don't, because we understand the problem. If you're going to do translation, how are you going to translate it? The Indians don't speak French. They don't speak Wolof. So that's the strategy. The strategy is to be in Africa later. But these developers got to eat. Some of them are poor. Some of them have jobs. If I didn't give them $1,000 a month, which is close to what even some doctors make in these African countries, they're happy to do that while they're learning and be prepared for the future. All right?
Hi guys. Hi guys. Yeah, thanks for the event. It's phenomenal. My name is Chester, and I just have a quick question. I was curious to know, does Coders4Africa have any competitors or any similar organizations trying to be similar to you guys are doing?
We don't have that problem right now. Like the fact that we're here, we're organizing conferences, that's one of the reasons why, because that's something that's never been thought of before in this way and put together in this way. So this is why we put together this conference, because as workers, we know other Africans that are doing things with different organizations, but as far as Africans, technologists together as a group, this is what this event is about, to kind of like put us all together in the room so that networking can happen. And we hope to get competition, because at the end of the day, like I said, we get that question, some people will be like, hey, if you don't push all these developers, all these skills, I'm sure afraid that they're going to just jump ship and go do their own thing. I'm like, please do, because at the end of the day, it benefits us all. The rising tide lifts all of us, and really that's the ultimate goal. So the day that we get a competitor, we know that we can make things right.
I'd like to just add, like, we maybe don't have competitors now. We have big companies that want to emulate what we're doing. Like, very big companies that come to us and say, hey, you know, there's a perception of us going into X country, but the perception is that we just come in and we just take out. We don't really give back to the people. So we want to partner with you so that we can actually help the youth, and it's not just this image of, you know, us just coming in and pillaging, right? Then the other thing too is that what really started this whole movement was the Pan-African mindset, right? So yeah, maybe there's people that are trying to do the same thing in individual silo countries, but not on the scale of let's do this all over Africa, right? That was the whole thing Kwame Nkrumah tried to come about, this unity of Africa, right? How we can all work independently together to come according to one aim, right? So it's like on a bigger scale, we're unifying people in different countries who normally maybe would do things on their own, but now guess what? They have someone in Kenya that they can go to. They have someone in Ghana, someone in Tunisia. And so that on that wide of a scale, I don't know anyone that's doing it.
And just one anecdote, like for me personally, this year started not from Ivory Coast, Senegal. I know West Africa pretty well, and I've heard of Ethiopia in my mind. I never thought that I'd be good to Ethiopia for me. I don't know anybody. I have no business there, but in March we were there for the conference. It just happened. I just discovered another part of Africa. So we got there, we have some people from Senegal that went to Ethiopia. We discovered another country. So as Kwame said, it's just that Pan-African mindset that we try to foster and make happen.
I just want to add something too. It's real funny because I met Abu on MySpace years ago, right? Years ago. We never met face to face, but you know, we're into music, so we'd always be talking. And the first time, and we spoke on the phone, the first time I met him face to face was in Ethiopia. Like, can you imagine? We met each other online here, but we didn't meet physically here. It was in Africa, and it just happened. Oh yeah, Abu is gonna be Abu. Wait, I know Abu. There's a lot of this weird stuff going on, man. But that's how it happened, you know. So it's real. It's also, I mean, for me, very spiritual, right? We're not just coming here and saying, okay, let's train these people. Like, we feel like it's a calling, right? This is what we're called to do. We're called to give back to our community, and it's just a matter of execution. Abu will tell you, it hasn't been easy. You know, it has not been easy, but we're still here, you know.
Hello? Hi, my name is Rowan. I'm the executive director of an organization called Not in My Country, which is an anti-corruption organization. We help develop web and mobile applications that empower people to fight corruption. And for the last 4 years, I was living and working in Uganda. I actually went to Uganda to start a renewable energy company, but the greatest difficulties that company faced, the first one was corruption, and the next, which was probably related, was managing human resources. Part of that, I think, has to do with the fact that, you know, you sign a contract with somebody, an employee, client, whatever, the contract's not worth the paper it's printed on because the rule of law is incredibly weak. So this gets me to my question, because I would really love to hire Coders4Africa, and I hope you don't mind if I ask some hard question. I would really love to potentially talk to you guys about helping to develop these mobile applications that we're working on. But we were even like trying to recruit developers while I was in Uganda, and the problems that we faced in, you know, just the process of getting quotes, you know, took forever. Trying to get them to agree to statements of work. So it was just really, really tough. But of course, you can find the raw talent. The talent is immensely there. It's about organizing and managing the human resources. So the first question that I had is, so if I was to hire Coders4Africa, for example, the contract that I would sign, would it be managed with Coders4Africa? So you guys would ultimately be responsible for the work, and it would be in U.S. jurisdiction? And the second question is, how do you deal with, and you mentioned it a little bit, but maybe you can dive into the nitty-gritty of it. How do you manage those guys over there that, you know, because of so many problems that need to be solved, are in these environments that are sometimes difficult to work in?
All right, so we're actually solving the problem that you had. The barrier to entry with the contracts and stuff like that. We don't want any of our clients to go through that. So Coders4Africa is a registered company in the United States, right? Which means that we have to follow the laws, right? When you sign a contract with us, The project is entirely managed from even the architecture piece, right? In the United States of Africa. The United States of Africa.
Yeah, that's a good one. Right? United States of Africa. That was good, man.
Subliminal message. So then what we do though, we break this agile methodology we talked about is our core, that was bread and butter. We break it into little tasks, very manageable based on the skills of the people we have. But most importantly, we have hired 25 core developers who, if they sit here, would speak the same message as we speak it. So there's always going to be the lions, right? The people who actually want to do this regardless. There's going to be what I call the hyenas, which eats after the lions, right? For the hyenas, we train them to become lions. We train them the way, actually, the work ethic of the United States that we've learned in here, right? When you talk to this developer, they will speak to you in a way that you'll be like, Uganda, because we're not there, we don't have any representative. If you talk to somebody in Uganda, you feel that, okay, I can trust these guys. But regardless, when you do business with us, you do with Coders4Africa in the US, and then we'll worry about those problems. We've been very successful, that's why our biggest contract is the United Nations.
One thing I would like to add about that is, like I was, like in developing our actually training system, our practical training system, and we were very picky in how we choose, the people we train. And when they participate in the training, they work in like if they were employees. Actually, we don't treat them as trainees or students. They're employees. They come. They have to come on time. They have to work their hours. They have to report. They have to do all of these different things. So, and at the end, we actually evaluate them. And fortunately for us, when we did the first training, in Senegal, it was 20 of them. Well, when 15 of them actually graduated, and all 15 of them got hired. And some of them actually came back to us and we hired them as part of Coders4Africa. So that's a process. We are very picky in how we choose, of developers, and
So these guys are actually employees?
Yes.
Yes.
They salary monthly. They get a salary every month, regardless of anything. Now we bring in contractors from our pool of them. Right? If somebody comes and say, I want if we had a client who's very picky, we want Django Python developers. Okay? Well, we didn't have anybody at that time. So what we did was reach out to the community, went through a series of interviews, made them sign a contract, made them do all that stuff, and brought them in. We're going to keep one of them, but the other one we're going to let go because they don't follow our ethics.
Also, one other thing I want to add, usually in the teams that we have in different countries, we also make sure that we have somebody in there. Like in most of the countries where we're very active, we actually have an office there. So if they're working, they have to go there. Like you cannot just come and say, oh, my internet was not working, or no, none of that applies. We have, we have an office set up for these things,
The generator.
Exactly. Or if it is not in a country where we have an office in there, we have to make sure those requirements are met before we work with those people.
And we have check-ins, daily check-ins with these people through Skype, through they're very meticulous about that. And sometimes we're up 3, 4 in the morning, and it's we're having these conversations, projects, updates, what's going on, and every single week this happens with every single technical developer in all the countries we operate in Africa.
And it's not the first time that we have heard this problem, this particular question. And one of the things that Hamilton pointed out is that this is going to be managed by us. So we find that a lot of times that when it happens is that when those developers are dealing with somebody non-technical, they think that they can throw sand in your eye and you can run around, but we know our stuff, so they can go through the same.
Hello? Hi, my name is Enoch. I'm from Ghana, and I went to school for exclusionary in math. I didn't finish, but I wanted to know, Coders4Africa, I see the potential of Coders4Africa. About 70% of Africa is under the age of 30, 35, and we have projects they have projects like Ghana, where they're building Hope City. I don't know if you guys have heard about that, and the Silicon Savannah project in Kenya. The internet boom is really technically yet to happen in Africa, but I want to know what do you guys think about Coders4Africa is more so, it seems like Coders4Africa is more so focused on the software aspects when it comes to the IT, but what do you guys think about the hardware aspects?
you know. And secondly, the hardware, the manufacturing aspect, because a lot of kids in Africa, the youth, there's a lot of youth there that probably not even 30%, not even, only about like less than 30% of the youth there have access to laptops and computers. And another problem is the internet. It's not like mobile here. Some African countries they have 2G. Majority of African countries, with the exception of South Africa, they have 3G. And some other places where they might have 4G. But how can you guys help?
Bridge the gap.
Yeah.
So if you followed my presentation earlier, I emphasized two things. One, we work, with the constraint that we have. So connectivity problems, like low resource or different things, there are solutions for that. M-Pesa was created with the technology that they had. So similarly, we can work around, those solutions, those problems, with solutions that works, and improve over time. That's the key. Now, the second thing with respect to devices, of course, we're interested in them, and we're actually looking at them. We have like a research team where we think about these things. However, we really still, start, we're still growing, and we have to make sure we go one thing at a time and make it right. We want to not only build the right things, but also build it right.
So I'll add something. I have this way of thinking, and before, when I was a little younger, okay, Africa is a big problem. That's why you have the U.S.-Africa Summit. Everybody's talking about this. But at some point, I think sometimes when you give your opinion on something you don't master, you become dangerous, right? Everybody's an expert on ICT. Everybody's for coding, SMS, all of that stuff. We took a step back. We said, we're going to specialize ourselves, okay? Because then we can tackle that problem and be the best at it versus being mediocre on all of the different things that we do, okay? And what's the thing that we can do? Take Google, take Facebook. How much is it worth? Okay, take WhatsApp, 19 billion, I think, or so. It's one app. Do you know how much economy around $19 billion? It doesn't have to be just software. It can be telemarketers. It can be anybody, the distribution system, marketing online. There's so many things that can come around it. Even a mobile phone that somebody can manufacture. That guy now can make money because of WhatsApp. If we're able to come up with one app, right, just one app, that has the value of $1 billion in Africa, don't you think we're going to change that economy? There's no one app that's not $1 billion in Africa yet. Once we get there, it's going to change everything. You know why? The telco company is going to jump on it. They're going to start investing more on 3Gs. Because now the bandwidth is flowing. It's flowing. That's why Africa was that idea. Everybody loves soccer in Africa. If you start putting it out there, people start using it with their little 3G. By the way, 3G is picking up very quickly. Ghana, they have it. People are coming up. If you have one app that's worth $1 billion, I don't care if you talk about hardware or something, everybody's going to get on board. Businesses, everybody. So that's why we're focusing specifically right now on software.
Great. I just wanted to ask you as far as high level, one of the things that I've experienced, I know Indians have been mentioned a lot. Where I'm at Marriott, it just became the largest hotelier in Africa. They just bought Protea and some other hotel chains and are planning to build 150 more. And one of the things that I learned being there is that the infrastructure that they have in India, they're building 75 more. And where it comes is, and where I was coming to you guys is that I know, like, I applaud my brother Justin for inviting me as a developer. But the economic power that I see, it's not because they're Indians, it's because if you're coming into my country and you're going to do business, you're going to hire my people. And I look at it like you see big corporations like Marriott who are now saying, hey, there's some money over there. at the same time, you know, it has to be a situation whereas, okay, we're going to build 300 hotels, the IT departments are going to grow, you know. And so what I was going to ask you is that, you know, when you have a situation like that, where you have a corporation coming in that's bringing not only jobs, but infrastructure, needed infrastructure to a lot of areas in Africa that have it, how do you deal with, you know, I think the difference between like in India and in Africa is India, even though they're not homogeneous, which a lot of people think, they only have one government. Africa is not homogeneous, but you have so many different entities that you have to deal with. And I was just trying to figure out, how are you guys starting to deal with, maybe the marketer can talk about this, dealing with the different types of avenues that you have, or peoples and factions that you have to deal with, just to continue to grow as an organization?
Well, I think I'll answer the question about the unity part. I mean, the funny thing is, like, we really haven't, like what you're describing on the government level, it's not really trickled down to the people. Like, where everyone is peace, right? Where we're all unified, we have this understanding that technology is going to help us get to that next step. So, you know, there's a lot of stories about, you know, the tribal wars and all these, you know, the different aspects that happen, the negative things that you hear. But I mean, with the people, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but with the kids that we meet, they're all on the same mind, even before we meet them. So it's not like we have to come and now be like, okay, this has to change, you have to change the way you're thinking. These people are already ahead. They're ahead in the terms of they understand that we have to be together. That they understand that, you know, all this bickering and fussing, there's no space for that in the virtual and technology world, you know?
Because $1 billion hasn't come yet.
No, well, okay, no, that's true, but even before the money comes in, what I'm trying to tell you is that they're already on that mind frame. It's not about the money for them, right? I mean, I don't know where, I'll put it this way. The kids that we have come across have been...
I'm talking about dealing with the government and all that. Not the people. The people are always going to be with you.
Right.
But what is your plan on dealing with the corrupt governments that you basically going to have to deal with once you start getting that money in?
Right. The answer right now for us is...
We'll get to you in a second.
Yes. Right now, like they said earlier, we're a startup, but one of the things that's very clear for us at this level, and that we're trying to impart to all the people that we deal with, all the Africans that we deal with, the developers, is that don't look to the government to solve the problems. I think that's an understanding that I think outside of technology, most Africans have to understand. The government is here to provide infrastructure and all, but really the $1 billion app is what's going to do it. And then the government will have to follow suit. When we went to Ethiopia, one of the complaints that we heard from the developers is that the government is not encouraging technology, using all these old technologies. They're not really involved with what we're doing. But we tell them, you're the creator, you're the developer, you're the one with the skills. But before somebody takes you, gives you credibility, you have to show them that you have earned that credibility. And you're a developer, you have the skill, use it and show them that you can do it. So it's trying to like impart that spirit of entrepreneurship, that spirit of do for self that we really trying to impart to them, is that they don't, sometimes you just don't realize that the skills that they have are valuable because the environment doesn't value. It's true. I was in Ivory Coast in May and I heard the same complaint. Amadou said, we can do the work, but the companies rather contract with other government, rather contract with somebody outside. So one thing that we're using that it's a US-based company, that Mentor, it makes the companies feel comfortable, but the end goal at the end is that by dealing with locals at the end, we won't have to be the middlemen anymore because they know that they have the local talent to be able to do the job. So right now, we don't make governments part of the equation. They have to deal with us when we come up, but they're not part of our plans right now.
Hello. Well, thank you all for your presentations. My name is Mayron, and I actually work on technology programs at the National Democratic Institute. And this coming Tuesday, actually, we're launching a huge, democracy toolkit, which is a really new initiative for us. And the whole premise of it is to really address one of the challenges that you talked about in terms of skill and in terms of actually having the exposure, which is what you talked about too, technology into the application of technology. So for us, our premise is to make everything open source so that people can actually access it for the people who are less technical as well. So my question for you all, we're thinking about this from a developer perspective to make things really easy, to package it in a very simple way. But for you all, I'm curious, in terms of the application, what do you all see as being the gaps in the application of technology for development? And in terms of organizations like ours that are looking at implementation, what are things that we need to think about when we're developing technology-enabled programs that we're launching in the field with partners, Nigeria partners in Kenya, some really challenging places where governments are particularly closed. So if you could talk about those gaps, I'd be interested to hear about it.
I'll just mention once in that.
Can we get all the questions in so that because we have a panel of speakers who are as brilliant as we are.
About 10 minutes.
So we get all the questions in.
Hello everyone. My name is Dr. Lawson Berkeley. I'm with a nonprofit organization called Identity Tag. And one of our objectives is to provide training for middle and high school students. I want to know, we partner with institutions and nonprofits on that. Are you guys currently focused on that in collaboration, or will you do that in the near future?
My question is just, how do you manage all of those people from all over the world? I mean, they have online applications like Claris and all this other stuff, but what do you all use? That's my question.
My name is Leroy Wilson Jr., and I'm not in the software business. I'm an attorney. I'm retired and I'm transitioning to relocate to Botswana. My initial contact with the African continent came in 1973 when I attended the World Peace Through Law Conference. And I'm not going to tell you about all of my background, but I have been, in touch with various African countries since then. And I must mention to you that one of the reasons I'm relocating to Botswana is because my wife is in Botswana. With respect to the question of corruption, I just want to make this comment. I'm absolutely exhausted because I've had 2 weeks of very intensive seminars, discussions, late night talks, and all that sort of stuff. And one of the things that came out during this week in Washington with the young people is that the problem of corruption is being looked at on a number of different levels. One level that I want to point out here is that the young people themselves are putting pressure on the leaders of these various countries to address the corruption issue. In the seminar yesterday, I think it was, that ACON put on, one of the singers, Devansh, I think it was, said that they were trying to get 1 million signatures within 4 months to address a social issue within that particular country. I think it was Nigeria. In any case, it turns out that you got 2.5 million signatures. Now, the other thing that's happening is that the singers in these countries are delivering social messages. And one of the things that there was another Amadou pointed out is that the singers are now more powerful than politicians. So I just want to point that out so that people might keep their eye on that particular trend of young people themselves putting pressure on their leaders to stop corruption.
Hello. Hey there. Nothing much. I've got one question. Just I don't know if I was away, but it might have been asked. But so I've been teaching over the course of the summer. I've been teaching my sister how to code. She's going to be a doctor. She wants to be a medical doctor, but I thought it'd be an interesting exercise to help her learn how to do some basic like SQL stuff and then also front-end stuff. But I wanted to hear about your experiences with women on the continent and coding. And what are you seeing on the continent right now in terms of interest and then also opportunities for women who also like to empower women to code?
All right, we'll start with that last one and go backward.
Yeah, we need to close it out for the questions. Yeah. So we actually recently partnered with Google. Google gave us actually some money, right, to go out and teach girls how to code. We just finished up one in Senegal, where we had 10 girls in a high school learn how to code. They're actually building their website for the school now, in a neighborhood called Parcelles Assainies. Right? It's a populous sort of a place. What we teach them is two things: Python, if we can, Android, and sometimes HTML. And the concept, though, the trainers don't teach them how to code, really. We teach them how to solve problems. Because coding is just a tool. It's just like you can use any other industry to do what you need to do. But you really need to think about how do you solve problems. First of all, identify the problem, then finding a solution to it. And coding can be, their problem was they didn't have a website. For the whole, they had a Facebook page, but they didn't have a website. So with this initiative going, we're going to go to Ghana next. Then we're going to go to Ethiopia, right? And then continue doing this thing with a little bit of money that Google give us, but to make it happen.
So I just want to say it was actually a Google Rise Award, so they didn't actually give us money. But what really happened is, so we're replicating the same thing that we started in Senegal. Once we learn from it, and we'll take it to Ghana, and we'll take it to other countries that were operating in Africa. So to answer your question, that's something that we're very, very interested in doing. And we know that it's at the forefront to represent these underrepresented women and children in Africa as well.
And just to conclude on that question, when we went to Ethiopia, it was actually the country where we had the most women turnout for the conference, and we give them a shout out for this. And we're absolutely confident that there's going to be more women in technology, because I don't know about you, but growing up in Africa, number one in the class was always a girl in technology, and I was in a pretty scientific branch, so I'm not worried about women. We just giving them that exposure to the tool. To answer your question, I just have my only point would be the number one when we go at conferences to talk to developers. The number one issue that they have that you hear all the time is, I built this, how do I put it on the internet? That's always the number one issue. Because you don't have a credit card, you can't get a hosting account in most places. So that's always like, if you can find a way to solve that issue, then it's nice to build tools, but if you can share them with the world, then there is no point.
And to add to that, that's why we're kind of pushing the cloud even in Africa. There are some local providers. Sorry, in Kenya, Nigeria, they have some thinking about these services, and but as we progress and move on, solutions can bridge the gap between hosting next year and there at the same time
As regard to the question about training again in the, I think, underprivileged kids, it wasn't specific to girls, right? So we haven't looked at it. Is this for US?
Yes, and
Africa, okay. So Africa, I think now there's so many organizations doing women tech, women code. There's so many, you know what I mean? So I don't think that will be a problem there. I think that the next thing that's going to happen is going to be more technologies in Africa than the US. Women, I believe that, because everybody's going that route. They think that because of mobile phone, you should be a coder. So we'll teach you that. In the US, I'm not sure. We've been looking for a partner in the US that can sort of create a Coders4Africa branch, or whatever we can call it, that we can channel some of the knowledge we have. But so far, people are doing their own thing, but so.
I just want to mention, there's an organization called Black Girls Code. I'm not sure if they're based in Philadelphia, but maybe that's someone, if you want to reach out, you can reach out to me later, we can talk about it, because we have some contacts with them.
There was another question, right?
Yeah.
Yes. No, there was a, we're gonna start. Oh, how do we manage everything? So we don't manage everything. There's some things we manage, the other one is just the hackathon way, right? So the community, in a sense, there's so many developers, you don't manage them. They come to you, they say, I want to be part of this. First thing they say, how can I be employee? We say, well, you got to go to our training program, okay? Okay, yeah, we have a bunch of tools.
We use, you want to know the name, we use a tool called Active Collab, but Active Collab?
Active Collab.
Yes. Yes, that's the one we're using, but we customize it to our posts.
Okay, guys. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you very
question.
much.